The body of a man has been found in a home on the New South Wales Mid North Coast as a massive rescue operation continues, with emergency services warning severe weather will continue to affect communities for days to come. Emergency services were called to a flooded property in Moto yesterday afternoon, where they found the body of a 63-year-old man.
State Emergency Services personnel have rescued 330 people from floodwaters over the past 24 hours, with up to 140 still waiting, while thousands of others have lost power or been isolated by cut-off roads. We spoke to the New South Wales Premier earlier, and we're going to catch up with a few more of those in the flood zone later this hour. But first, we want to take you to our reporter Emma Siossian, who is in Port Macquarie for us this morning. Emma, we can see the floods behind you. How is the situation at the moment? Are the waters still rising?
Yes, unfortunately, river levels are rising in many parts of the region. Residents here have again woken to heavy rainfall on and off. As you can see behind me, the Hastings River in Port Macquarie has broken its banks and inundated many low-lying riverside homes and businesses. SES crews worked last night to help evacuate people from those areas. And we've had, of course, the sad news this morning of the first confirmed flood death. Police discovered the body of the 63-year-old man at Moto, a small community just to the north of Taree, at around 3 o'clock yesterday afternoon. And many people in that Taree area are still waiting for help. There's many homes that are isolated, and SES crews are working hard to reach people, but conditions are quite treacherous. There's fast-flowing water, very high water levels, also making it difficult to access areas. And the SES is warning people to be careful. Here's some of what they've had to say this morning.
All I can say is if people do receive an evacuation order, or a warning rather, could they please follow it? You can see our ability to rescue is quite delayed due to conditions. The best thing the community do is get themselves safe, high and dry. Don't wait and see if the water's coming. If you receive that messaging, please leave immediately.
There's also concern on areas to the north of Taree and Port Macquarie. There's been a wide-scale evacuation of the Kempsey CBD, which has also involved the evacuation of some hotels. Many agencies working to help evacuate people from that region, and many communities in low-lying areas there are isolated, with people urged to move to higher ground if they can. Also concerned today around areas further north, around Coffs Harbour, Bellinger and Maxville. Now, further heavy rainfall is expected over the next 24 hours, potentially more than 200 millimetres in some parts. But the good news is that the weather is expected to ease across the Mid North Coast area tomorrow. So some hopes that then river levels can start to fall and people can start the long clean-up work ahead.
It is going to be a long clean-up job for some people. Thank you very much for that, Emma.
Well, the United Nations insists aid is being allowed into Gaza, but it's not getting to the people who desperately need it, even as Israel partially lifts its humanitarian blockade of the Strip. Middle East correspondent Matthew Doran is in Jerusalem.
The aid trucks which are entering Gaza through the Kerem Shalom crossing near the Israel-Egypt border, and there's been another 100 of them making that journey today, are depositing their precious cargo on the Gaza side of the fence line, and then they are turning around and heading back into Israel. The expectation from there is that humanitarian agencies, such as those run by the United Nations, pick up those supplies and take them further into Gaza and to the people who need them. Quite aside from there being an issue and a debate with the small number of trucks coming over the border, far fewer than what it says is needed to tackle the hunger crisis, the UN is saying it's struggling to get to those supplies. While the aid crisis continues, the Israeli Prime Minister is also defending his military's expanded offensive in Gaza. Strikes have continued across the Strip, and more evacuation warnings have been issued in northern Gaza in the last few hours after rockets were detected being fired towards Israel. Even as countries around the world demand Israel show some restraint given the high civilian death toll, Benjamin Netanyahu says the offensive is delivering on its goals. He says it's probable Hamas military commander Mohammed Sinwar has been killed in recent days. And in his first press conference in 5 months, Benjamin Netanyahu made this promise.
Our forces are seizing more and more territory to clear it of terrorists and Hamas terror infrastructure. At the end of this process, all areas of Gaza will be under the Israeli security control and Hamas will be completely defeated.
The frustrations being directed towards Israel are not just because of its conduct in Gaza, but also in the West Bank too, with the IDF opening fire towards a group of diplomats from European, Asian and Arab nations. The IDF says it regrets the inconvenience, but its soldiers fired warning shots because the group had deviated from an agreed route to the Jenin refugee camp. The group had been invited by the Palestinian Foreign Ministry to tour the northern city, which has been the focal point for the IDF in its crackdown on claimed militants in the West Bank. Italy and France have called in Israeli ambassadors in their countries to demand an explanation of the situation.
We definitely call on Israel to investigate this incident and also hold these accountable who are responsible for this, and any threats on diplomats' lives are unacceptable.
The incident raises many serious questions, not least why Israeli soldiers decided to open fire instead of issuing any other type of warning to the delegation.
That's Matt Doran reporting there, and we've got more news now with Emma.
Thanks. We're going to stay overseas because US President Donald Trump has confronted his South African counterpart Cyril Ramaphosa over widely discredited claims of a white genocide in South Africa. Mr Trump used the Oval Office meeting to play a slew of videos purporting to show the alleged persecution of South Africa's white Afrikaners. President Ramaphosa strongly rejected the claims, saying crime is a public safety problem that threatens both white and black South Africans.
People who do get killed, unfortunately through criminal activity, are not only white people. Majority of them are black people. And we have now been utilizing...
The farmers are not black.
One of the victims of a suspected alcohol poisoning incident in Fiji back in December has spoken publicly for the first time. 7 tourists, including 4 Australians, were hospitalised after drinking cocktails at a popular resort. Fijian authorities said no methanol was found in the drinks, but now in an exclusive interview with the ABC, one of the victims is speaking out about how she almost died after taking just 2 sips.
I was shaking violently, and I could see the medical staff were so busy with the other patients. That's the last time I was conscious. I believe that the alcohol that we consumed was tainted and that we were poisoned.
Queensland Parliament has passed the next stage of the state government's so-called adult crime, adult time laws. Another 20 offences, including rape and attempted murder, now fall under the legislation, which means juveniles would face the same penalties as adults. The opposition supported the changes, but has called on the government to release the legal advice behind the legislation. Sydney trains are back running on a normal timetable today after 2 days of rail network chaos. Services were brought to a standstill on Tuesday afternoon when a heavy rail train became entangled in overhead wires near Strathfield. Jelena Dokic, the estranged father of former tennis player and commentator Jelena Dokic, has died. He gained notoriety for his overbearing behaviour during his daughter's career, and Jelena later revealed he had physically and emotionally abused her. She says despite how hard and difficult the relationship was, she's choosing to focus on a good memory. A West Australian Labor MP has channelled his inner Daniel Ricciardo, finishing his valedictory speech with a shoey. Carl McGinn leaving some big and somewhat wet shoes to fill for the Upper House MPs being sworn in today. His party will no longer have total control of Parliament and will need to seek support from the Greens, the opposition or the 5-member crossbench to pass any legislation.